boys and girls, it's Fog and we're playing Lethamyr. Sitting here under the creeper spawner. Got a nice little pile of gunpowder building up. Made a couple of changes here that I thought I'd tell you about real quick. Used to be that when these guys came out of the spawn box, they came down here and floated over here into the kill trap. I switched it. I moved it over to there instead. The reason I did that is because when I was looking down here at the blaze farm, at the blaze spawner, I realized I wanted to move all of them right over to here, and in order to do that I needed to have this area open, so I made that little switch there. Alright, I thought today that we'd talk a little bit about what we're going to do with this blaze spawner. So, let's go and take a trip into a creative world because I got something I want to show you. Alright, here we are in a creative flat world, and what the heck is that? Alright, well what this is this is the template for what I want to do with that blaze spawner. And I'm going to real quick take you through what this is and why I made some of the decisions that I made. Hopefully this won't take too long. A successful mob trap has three components. The first thing you need is you need a place to spawn mobs, and that's what that is right there. That's that little nether brick is our stand-in for our blaze spawner. That represents the blaze spawner right there. So you need to have a place where mobs can spawn, and you need to have some mechanism for moving the mobs, which is what all this stuff down here is. Okay, and then you need to have a way to kill the mobs. So you have a mob spawner, you have a transportation system, and you have a kill chamber. And I'm going to walk you through what we've got here. So this first thing here, this represents our spawner right here. This is our blaze spawner. I know it doesn't look like it, but it is. This yellow wool here represents that lava column, and then there'll be another lava column here and here and here. And this is just so that I can map it out without actually having to place lava, because that gets to be a mess. So you can see there's our little sign bucket to capture the lava at the bottom and everything. As we discussed before, a spawner will spawn mobs in an 8x8x3 area. So this is our 8x8x3 area, there, plus a space one higher for the heads for the blazes so that they can still spawn with their feet right there. This is where the roof is. I've removed the roof to make it easier to see stuff. Okay, so what's all this junk below? This stuff down here is what I like to call a shaker funnel. It's part of the transportation system. The job of this is to take the blazes and move them as quickly as possible away from the spawn area. If you have mobs within a 17x17x9 box centered about that spawner, it will inhibit the spawn ratio, the spawn rate. So you need to get the mobs out of there as soon as you can so that more can spawn. And the way this works is when the blaze spawn, they drift down here, and this series of pistons pushes them in towards the center and drops them right there at the bottom of a conveyor belt that moves them away from the blaze spawner. And we'll explain that a little more in a minute. So the way this shaker conveyor works is we have a simple clock circuit here. This clock circuit turns this redstone on and off, and I've got a switch here that demonstrates what happens when I turn it on and off. So if you look down here, you can see that half of these pistons are on and half of them are off. When this redstone turns on, then they switch. Just like that. So now this half is on and this half is off. And each of these guys pushes a glass block that moves the mobs closer to the center of this area and right down into there. Okay, so in order to make that work, we hook it up to a clock circuit. This is a simple clock circuit right here. I'll explain how this works. We'll turn you off. Okay, there we go. So the way this clock circuit works is we've got a torch here that powers this redstone, which passes through these two repeaters, And when our clock is on, like this, it powers this block, which powers this redstone, which goes through those repeaters, which turns that torch off again, which turns this block off, which goes through these guys, and just around and around and around it goes. So that's a very simple clock. And then to turn it off, if you turn it off, that piston retracts, and it stops the clock. So you can look down there, you can see all the pistons shaking back and forth. Imagine, if you will, that I'm a blaze and I spawned right here. I'm going to fall here, and I'm going to get pushed. With each pulse of the pistons, I'll get pushed closer to the center, and I don't actually want to go all the way down in there. Not yet. So we're going to turn that off because it makes a bit of a racket. And I'll explain to you how the conveyor works. Okay, so obviously that clock is feeding a pulsating pulse down to this redstone here, which using this torch moves it over to here and down to there, and so on and so on and so on, right down the line. And that's what causes the pistons to vibrate or pulse in and out. And then when you get to the bottom, the last line of redstone for the last piston, we pull that signal off here and we run it down here through a pulse limiter. That's what this is. The way this works is when this redstone goes high, this torch goes off. That drops this redstone, which causes that torch to turn on. Meanwhile, when this redstone is on, it will go through this repeater, and after a short delay cause this block to turn on, which will cause that torch to turn off again. So if I throw this switch, you can see how that works. Let's see, get a slightly better view here. Alright, so if I throw the switch, you can see you get a short pulse. Okay, so that's how the pulse limiter works. When the clock cycle, every time that clock cycle goes high, every time this piston extends, it's going to cause this thing to rise. Send a short pulse through the conveyor here. The way the conveyor works is, the conveyor comes through here, the pulse comes through here, and on the first tick, this piston extends. This is set to 2, and this is set to 1, so that's on the third tick, this one extends. And then we have 4 plus 1 is 5, so on the fifth tick, that one extends. So you have tick 1, 3, 5, 7, and on and on and on. You can see how that repeats. And then with a 1 tick delay here, we have the same thing on the other side. So these fire on all the even ticks, 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. And it pulls our blazes down through 9 blocks in each direction to this spot right here. And this spot here will be at the bottom of a lava column. And since blazes always swim up in lava, when the blaze ends up there, it's going to swim up to the top of wherever this column goes. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, a couple of explanations about why I've chosen to do what I've done. First of all, for the pushers, I'm going to use glass. Some of this glass is just here to make it easier to see what I'm doing. But in front of every piston, these blocks are, in the finished product, going to be glass. And the reason they need to be glass is that glass does not damage mobs. It doesn't cause suffocation damage. And I'll show you right now what I mean by that. If I were to stand right here, and that glass goes into my head, even if I weren't in creative mode, I would not be suffocating right now. And neither will a mob. Now, a lot of people have built funnels like this and instead used a mechanism like this, where you have a pressure pad connected to either a repeater, or sometimes you use a string of redstone. Amounts to the same thing. And causes that to extend. You might ask, why didn't I choose to do that? Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, doing it that way, I can get very compact. You can see that I've got a piston every other level. If I tried to do that here, I end up with a situation where when this pressure plate is pushed down, this block is on, and that interferes with that piston down there. So you end up with cases where you can get sticky pistons. Another problem with this is sometimes, like if you walk away and the chunk unloads, or if you leave the game, if there's a mob on top of one of these pressure plates, when that happens, you can end up in a situation where one of these pistons gets stuck. And either it gets stuck or it retracts so quickly that it leaves a block out like that. And once you've got a block stuck out like that, there's no way for another blaze to come and step on that pressure pad, and so this gets stuck there forever. And you have to come through and manually fix it. And I didn't want to have to do that. So, oops, let's put this back the way it was. Okay, so in order to get that kind of a mechanism to work, you have to build something spaced like this. Otherwise, that will interfere with the piston. So you end up with a bigger funnel. So this is more economical, a little more compact. The next question is, why use glass? I already explained that glass doesn't cause suffocation damage. If you do use glass and you use pressure plates like this, then you run into a situation where sometimes the glass can get pushed onto the mob and the mob can get stuck with the glass on it. You can end up with a state where you've got the mob standing on the pressure plate but the piston extended. And if you do that, then that also binds up your machine because there's no way for the mob to move, and unless the mob moves, the piston won't retract. By putting it all on a clock circuit, I don't have that problem. The pistons never get stuck. Even if the piston were to glitch, like if I were to leave the area or log out or something and a piston were to get glitched, the next time the clock cycled it would all reset, and that's just fine. Same thing for the conveyor. I've seen a lot of people build these conveyor systems with pressure plates just like that, where you put a pressure plate in the middle and use the pressure plate to trigger the piston. Again, if you do that, then you either have to not use glass, or you have to accept that it's going to occasionally bind up and you'll have to do something to fix that. Neither of which is particularly acceptable. Doing it this way, I know that it's never going to bind up. If for some reason a mob gets stuck, doesn't matter. The next time the clock cycles, he's going to move. So it's just much more reliable. Now there is a downside to doing this. The downside is with this many pistons and this much redstone moving around, it can create lag. So if you have a slow machine, you may want to find a different way to do this, because this can lag your machine out a little bit. So, it's a choice I made. It's something I'm willing to live with. So maybe you're not. That's fine. There's a million different ways to do this. So let's talk about the kill zone. This guy's going to rise up to about this height in our final world, and we're going to have a little platform over here right by where we are killing right by our drowning trap. We'll have a little area right beside it to kill the blazes. And I also wanted to mention the other reason that using glass in here is so important is because it doesn't cause any suffocation damage to the mobs. That means that when we get the mobs where we want them, we can be assured that they're absolutely at full health. They'll have taken absolutely no damage from anything in the entire system, since all of the moving parts are made with glass. So anyway, we're going to get them up to about this level, and we're going to put our kill chamber up here where we can kill these guys. Let's talk about how we're going to design the kill chamber. Okay, this is an example of one way to do a kill chamber. If you can get the blazes to somehow drop into this tube, then you can push that out there to close off this little area here. Using a step instead of another block is good because, again, a step won't create suffocation damage, but it will tend to kind of push up any guys that get stuck right there, so that we don't have guys that are partly in the kill chamber and partly out of the kill chamber. So we trigger that to close off seal off the kill chamber, and then we trigger this piston to cause suffocation damage. And usually that won't be wool, that'll be like stone or something like that. But for demonstration purposes, wool works great because it's easy to see. And then we just keep that on long enough to suffocate them, and as soon as we get their damage to the level that we want, ideally to half a heart, then we let that retract, and we can walk in there and kill them. And I'll demonstrate that real quick right now. So let's put a blaze in the trap. You got to do that in hard mode. Give you a blaze. Well, we're not doing hard mode, but we're gonna do it in hard mode. And we'll go up here and we'll drop a couple of blazes in there. Yeah, they can be a little loud. And then you can see that if we do this, that locks them in. If we do this, now they're taking suffocation damage. And if we leave that closed long enough, it'll kill them. Just a minute here. Alright, so the trick is, whoops, I hate it when I do that. The trick is that we have to time that so that we only suffocate them just exactly long enough, and that's what all this stuff over here is all about. Okay, so when I throw this switch here, it's going to close that, but it's also going to go through this pulse generator and send a pulse over to this unit right here. This is a pulse sustainer. When this redstone goes high, it sends a pulse to this block, which sends a pulse back around here and keeps this redstone high indefinitely. This redstone will stay on until that block is moved away by this piston. Meanwhile, that first pulse we sent through drives this pulse generator right here and sends a single pulse through this line of redstone repeaters and eventually all the way back down here, and that pulse will cause this piston to retract just long enough to break break the circuit here and release the suffocation piston. So let's demonstrate that real quick. So there we have our blaze in our trap. We'll come down here. Yeah, hi guy. Hello. Yeah, I'm talking to my guys here. You can just go away. Alright. So we've got our blaze in our trap. Now I'm going to go into fly mode so that you can see this happen easier. Trip the switch. Pulse sustainer's doing its job, and we've got that pulse racing through the clock. When the pulse gets to the end, piston retracts, breaks the circuit, pulls back the suffocation block. That guy's still extended because this switch is still on. And we can walk up, give him one punch, and he's died. Collect the XP, collect the blaze rod, everybody's happy. Throw this switch, and we can start it all over again. It's that simple. Okay, so if you want to do this, this I believe requires about a 48 tick delay. Seems to me that was right. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. I think there's 24 repeaters there. They're all set on 4 ticks, except for this one right here is set on only 1 tick, and that's mostly due to the delay coming through here. I have to compensate for that. But just experiment until you find the right length. You know, you figure out exactly how many ticks it takes to kill them, and then back it off 1, and then you'll have them just ready to be killed with a punch. So anyway, that's how that works. Now let's talk about designing the kill chamber here. There's a couple of different ways we can go. If you've ever watched Etho's videos, which I highly recommend, in his blaze farm he did something kind of like this, or at least he is doing something kind of like this, where at the top of that lava elevator, the blazes come up into this chamber here, and then at some point you can flip a switch or trigger a circuit or whatever, and it will block off the lava flow, trapping the blazes right there, and then you can suffocate them with this piston back here. Okay, and then after you've collected your loot, you can trigger it again, and the lava flows again, and your blazes will go back up into the kill chamber. This is a really nice design. It's very clean. It looks nice. I mean, I can rewire all of this so it doesn't look nearly so ugly. It does require a little bit of timing on how you close these guys so that you don't spill lava all over the place. But the biggest downside to this design is that when the blazes are swimming up the lava elevator for a minute, their head will be right there, which means they can see you, which means they can get aggravated and they might shoot at you. And that can be a problem. So for that reason, I don't think I'm going to go with this design. Instead, I want to do something like this. And the way this works is the lava elevator comes up to a 2 by 2 by 2 cube up here. And as the blazes fill that cube up, they bump each other over to this hole, which drops them down into the kill chamber. The advantage here is that there is no chance for the blazes to actually see the player. The disadvantage is that you have to get 3 or 4 of them up in there before some of them will get pushed into here. But, you know, that's not such a big deal. So let's see if we can get him to do that. Yep, there we go. And then, you know, we can close our chamber up there like this. Seal them in there. More blazes can accumulate up there while we're dealing with these guys. That's fine. And we can suffocate them. Now back away so it's a lot more quiet. Hello, slime. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. And I think that design is a little less prone to error. So anyway, let's get to it. All right, and here we are back in Lethamyr. Collect a little more gunpowder. We're about ready to get going. Let's take a look at what we have here in the chest. Lots of raw materials. Let's grab some glass. We're going to need that. We're going to need some redstone, some torches. Don't really need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. Grab maybe a little more redstone, a little more glass. And we definitely need pistons. We're going to need to use lots of pistons. Okay, so let's get started and let's get building. Well, we've largely finished construction and we're about ready to test it out. We've got our crusher circuit over there, our clock over there. I made one minor change to the pistons over here. I replaced the regular pistons with sticky pistons and moved them up one level because I'd forgotten that light leaks through pistons. Pistons don't actually block light, so even though I was blocking off the lava flow, I wasn't blocking off the light from the lava. So I was getting spawn, I just wasn't getting quite as high a spawn as I would like. But let's get this thing going. We'll give it a test. Turn it on. There's our clock circuit right down there. let's go down and take a look at our conveyor. Make sure our conveyor's working. Sounds good. Sounds good. There we go. Conveyor's working. Here comes a blaze. Yep. Okay, that works. That's good. This is good. Come up here. We should see some blazes coming up. Yep, there he is. Good, good. This is good. Still got our gunpowder working. Okay, we can get a few more in here so that we can test the crusher. Come on, guys, let's go. There we go. We got one. Okay, let's test the crusher. All right, sealed it off. It's crushing him. This is good. And the crusher piston retracts, and it's a one-shot kill. Perfect. Okay, let's shut it off. All right, everything works. This is good. Okay, so now what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to pretty this up a bit. I'm going to enclose things and make this all safe so that I can AFK without, go away from keyboard without worrying about things killing me. And, oops, I didn't want a screenshot. So I'm going to pretty this up a bit, and we'll make it look a lot nicer, and we'll be right back. Alright, and this is what it looks like now. Let me give you a quick tour here. So, we've got nice battlements to keep the spiders off the top when we're AFK. We've got a little place to stand while we're catching gunpowder and waiting for blazes to accumulate here. We've got our little on-off switch. Down below, we have all the workings covered up and hidden away. This leads down to the conveyor. Over here on half slabs, we go to the dark observation room. Half slabs, of course, prevent things from spawning down in here, even though the light level's extremely low. Looks like we have some light seeping through down there. I'll have to figure out where that's coming from. I know I put some torches down in there to prevent things from spawning behind the pistons, so that's probably what's seeping through down there. But it doesn't seem to be affecting the spawn rate too much, so I'm not too worried about it. Anyway, all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. Now I think I'll just stand here for a while and just let them accumulate, and we'll see what happens. Alright, well, I've been sitting here AFK for a while, and as you can see, we've collected nigh on to 200 blazes in that sucker while I've been sitting here. I thought it'd be kind of fun to deal with them. So let's real quick crush them. And then let's dispatch them with a harm potion. That's it. Oh, that is just so much fun. That never gets old. Look at all those experience orbs. Well, I think that's where we leave it today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.